Thank you all so much for joining, and thank you, more importantly, for wrapping up your platform experience with us. I hope you've had a great couple of days, and it's just been so exciting to see all of the different sessions, but I'm most excited to kick off this one. My name is Nell Malone. I am the Plaid Finrise Program Director, and I'm so thrilled to be with you today hosting this workshop. We're hoping that you can come away with this session with a better understanding of what Plaid Finrise is, how the program works, and what founders who've participated have gotten out of the experience. And there's no better way of doing that than to hear from founders themselves. So today I'll be hosting a conversation with Aditi Shekhar and Roshan Patel. Oh, excuse me. Thanks, Robert, so much for letting me know. I'll turn that music right off. All right. See the beauty of the chat, everyone. Please keep them coming, and also add your questions to the Q&A tab. But one of those questions should not be, can you put the music back on? All right, so with that said, so excited again to be hosting this conversation with Aditi and Roshan, two founders in our inaugural cohort, and hopefully it'll give you a really good sense of what the program is and if it'll be a benefit to you and your company. But before we go ahead and jump in, I want to give a bit of background on Finrise itself. And to start with that, I wanted to restate Plaid's mission, which I'm sure you've heard many times throughout the platform sessions, but it bears repeating. Plaid is working to unlock financial freedom for everyone. But we know that there's a deep history in traditional financial services of discriminatory and predatory practices, and that access to quality financial services has never been equally distributed. So about a year ago, a group of us came together at Plaid during the internal hackathon with a shared goal of creating a program that would allow Plaid to more directly support a diverse and inclusive fintech ecosystem, one that both represents and also serves all people and all consumers. And what we created during that week was Finrise. Finrise is our accelerator program supporting fintech, early stage fintech entrepreneurs that are Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And we designed the program to provide hands-on tactical advice, but also to create a supportive community for founders that have not always been able to access the same resources and opportunities as other founders. And we've been so impressed by, first of all, what this inaugural cohort of founders has accomplished, and have also learned so much over the past 6 months. We launched the program in March of this year with an incredible cohort of 5 companies. And over the past 6 months, we've accomplished everything from leading a 3-day virtual bootcamp and a follow-up curriculum led by Plaid experts and external experts. We've hosted an investor preparedness event series culminating in a practice pitch event. We've had an executive mentorship program, but that's far less important than what the founders have accomplished in that time period, which has been astounding, honestly, from fundraising to launching apps and products, to even completely redefining revenue models and sales strategies. So it's been an incredible learning experience for me, and I'm so excited to be speaking here today with Aditi and Roshan, and also to preview some of the changes that we're making for next year's program. So please do stick around till the end, because that's when I'll be sharing some important updates and also some relevant dates and information. And remember to add any questions that you have to the Q&A tab, because we will be closing the event out with a Q&A. So without any further ado, let's get started. I'd love to introduce my wonderful guests. I should have used this line, so apologies. But my wonderful guests, Aditi and Roshan, thank you so much for joining us and taking time out of your busy schedules today. And would love to just get started by having you both introduce yourself to everyone who's joining us today, and giving a little bit of background on the companies that you founded and your founding story. So Aditi, I'm going to put you on the spot and have you start first.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to talk about Zeta. So I'm the founder and CEO of Zeta, and Zeta is a financial institution for families. And our core thesis is that we think much of fintech is sort of stuck in this single player mentality, where there's one person really touching a pool of money. But when in fact you look at the way money is used and spent and earned across the world, you notice that it's actually a lot more social and a lot more multiplayer than we realize. So our first use case at Zeta is really focusing on couples and families as the demographic that we're really invested in and working towards. And we've already launched a personal finance manager for couples, but we have recently transitioned into banking and have launched a joint account product. We call it the modern day joint account for couples as well.
And I think that one fun thing about our is that we had been working together for years before Finrise. So
yeah,
I'm excited to jump into that a little bit more, but I'll pass it over to Roshan next.
For sure.
So I'm Roshan. I'm the CEO and founder of Walnut. We're a fintech startup building buy now, pay later for healthcare. So I think we can all agree healthcare is very broken in the US, especially paying for it. And it really made no sense to me that people struggle financially to receive the care they need. So like a single medical bill of just a couple $100s can just derail your life for a lot of Americans. And many people actually forego treatment due to the high cost, even after insurance kicks in. So I thought there must be a better way to help patients afford healthcare and for healthcare providers to collect from their patients versus the current system where patients are getting sent to collections agencies and getting their credit scores destroyed and in many cases forced into bankruptcy. So what we do is we allow patients to pay for medical expenses over time. So if you get a bill, you can spread it out into manageable monthly installments with Walnut. And the best part is we don't charge fees or interest to the patient. So it's completely free to use. This helps the patients actually afford the care they want and helps the healthcare providers capture more revenue. So kind of a win for both sides.
I can just speak to the group's excitement when we were reviewing applications and reading through what Walnut does. As a patient and also someone who had worked in healthcare, it just was such a creative way of addressing that problem. So has been wonderful working with you. And to kind of go back to that original story, so before my role as Finrise program director, I worked in Plaid's growth team, working with customers directly. And so Aditi and I have been working in that capacity for a couple of years. And I was so excited when I saw that you had applied. I know that Alex, our friend and my colleague, had reached out and let you know that we were launching Finrise, but I'd love to hear from you. What was it that drew you to the program? Why did you apply? And what was it that you hoped to get out of the experience?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I like to call myself OG Plaid in the sense that I knew the team before you were, billion-dollar companies. But, Plaid was actually the first piece of, well, actually stepping back, I will clarify. I think much of us in fintech know that fintech is just like a stack of a bunch of different partners when you're building anything in fintech, right? Like somebody's helping you collect the data, somebody might be helping you actually send the payments and so forth. So Plaid was actually the first piece of financial technology that we integrated into our product. So it was, the first time that we as a team really had touched anything related to fintech. My founding team and I were all edtech folks, so we didn't know a ton about fintech, so we were really learning our way. And Plaid was the team that we leaned on and relied on to sort of show us the path forward. So we got to know the Plaid team several years ago when we first launched a PFM, or a personal finance manager for couples. And so everyone was talking about how Plaid was so much better than the others. They were talking about, how the Plaid team was just very open to building the ecosystem with us. So we got to know the team incredibly well at the time. And as we worked with them more and more, we realized that as we were going into this foray into banking, we really wanted to lean on the team for more of the expertise. And so, you guys, you have products in everything from credit building to data aggregation to ACH to fraud. And having that depth of experience across so many verticals in fintech, frankly, is hard to get under one house. And having access to that opportunity through Finrise was just a no-brainer for us. And then the other thing I will throw out there, I didn't actually know this when I applied, but we also, as Finrise participants, get free Plaid for a certain amount of time. And then we also get discounted Plaid for several years into the future. And that was just like the most tremendous surprise, because it became almost like an equity-free investment for us, because it represents several hundred thousands of dollars of value for us. So that was like just a joy.
Kind of a little sneaky thing that we
It was awesome.
started. Well, I'm really glad that you applied. It's been so great to get to work with you even more closely and just see so much. I mean, Zeta has just accomplished so much over the past couple months, but certainly since we started working together. So it's been such a tremendous experience for me. And Roshan, we didn't know each other at all when you applied. So I'm curious, having not been a Plaid customer, what was it that drew you to Finrise?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a first-time founder and actually spent most of my career on the investing side of the table as a venture capitalist. So I've never actually worked at a tech company or a startup before. So I feel like I'm a step behind everyone else that like has some experience actually working at a company. So I just knew there was a ton about building and growing startups for me to learn. So I basically applied to Finrise because I was looking for as much help as I could get. But two things really stood out to me. One was Plaid. So as Aditi said, fintech is extremely complicated and it's basically like a stack of partners. And we knew eventually one day Plaid would be part of that stack, but having the mentorship, guidance, and support of one of the most successful fintech companies ever would be really helpful for us. And the second was the community. So entrepreneurship can be incredibly lonely sometimes. So I thought having 4 other companies at the same stage as us would be really helpful and just would be a great community to be a part of where we can learn from and help each other and really just leverage the experience and knowledge of extremely smart founders, no matter what industry they come from, and be able to contribute what I've learned along the way as well.
And I know we have a shared Slack channel, and I kind of like outpost, I would say probably 10 to 1 in our shared channel because I know you're all so busy, but it does bring me so much joy when in our monthly meetings or on Slack, you all ask a question and everybody's so eager to respond with like recommended vendors or, just stories that can help, just help everyone as they're navigating similar obstacles, but maybe at different times or even at the same time. So that's really good to hear. And that was definitely one of the things we wanted to focus on. And I guess, now being 6 months into the program, how has that expectation evolved for you? Were there elements of the program that you didn't realize would be as important that are extremely impactful, or things that you've taken away from it that you didn't expect? And I guess I'll turn that back to Aditi, but however.
I was going to say, yes. So first and foremost, it's been incredibly fun to see what the program's evolved into, because I think we were like, what is it going to look like? How's it going to feel? And so we've had the benefit of, for example, having executive leadership from Plaid help us. And I remember distinctly being on an investor conversation, and the person said to me, you guys don't have a deep compliance bench. Like, how are you guys going to really navigate compliance as you go through this? And I was like, well, the general counsel of Plaid is kind of my best friend. So, we get to hang out on a weekly or biweekly basis to talk all about compliance. So having resources like that have been tremendously helpful. I think the other thing you guys have done incredibly well, Nell, and a lot of credit goes to you, is you've assembled this like ecosystem of partners to help us and guide us, whether it's legal support that we've gotten, working through the intricacies of how one calculates interest, to, the more the community elements of having other founders to ask about how they're doing a certain thing, or frankly, even just the expertise. We just built out a fraud program at Zeta in the last 6 months, and having the expertise of leading on folks at Plaid who think about this on a daily basis and bluntly see it at a pretty macro level was just tremendous. And just having access to those resources has been huge for us. I don't think there's a week that goes by that we don't talk to someone from Plaid to help us with something.
So thoroughly ingrained in your I get to see you so often. It's such a joy. It is so fun for me though to be in some of these sessions and to just like pull in. I mean, Meredith is the coolest, obviously, but to be able to pull in Shano or whoever and just hear directly
exactly
about, what things that I didn't even know that we were doing. I mean, I feel like I'm getting so much benefit, which is selfish and not the point of this program. But I feel just so grateful to be exposed to everything that you're working on, and to see how much progress you make week to week. So thank you for sharing that. And Roshan, I mean, I know it's been so incredible working with you as your team has been building on Plaid, but I'm curious, like that aside, what has been your expectations and how have they evolved?
Yeah, it's honestly been so much more than I expected. Like I mentioned, I was looking for that sense of community. And what I didn't expect was that because the other founders in Finrise and I have been basically in the trenches with each other every day, the bond that we formed is going to last like way after Finrise formally concludes at the end of this year, which that alone is worth being in Finrise. But beyond that, I've developed a really great network of advisors, mentors, VCs, lawyers, and others that I can rely on. And for example, Finrise matched me with a mentor who ended up providing a lot of like operational and legal help. But that would have cost like tens of thousands of dollars from a law firm. So that's just like extremely concrete value. So like the actual connections Finrise makes has been incredible. And I've also learned a ton about the various aspects of building and growing a fintech startup from experts within the Plaid ecosystem. So you mentioned that Finrise regularly holds events and brings in experts to talk on various topics. So it could be like sales or marketing or fundraising or compliance. So it's just been really helpful for me because I've never done any of this before. And then as Aditi mentioned, having access to the like free or discounted products is really helpful for a seed stage startup where we're trying to be efficient. So every dollar we spend matters. So that's also like extremely valuable for us.
I totally skipped over this part, but I have to mention this. The social proof also of Plaid's backing has been huge. I was telling someone the other day that there's actually another company named Zeta in fintech that our worlds are starting to collide. But I got a bunch of emails from other fintech founders who were like, but you guys are the only Zeta we know. And I was like, how's that possible? This other Zeta's raised billions of dollars. They're much bigger than us. But it's because of the platform that we've gotten through Plaid and the backing that we've gotten. It's really elevated our position also in the fintech landscape. And I just wanted to shout that out.
To hear. I wonder too, like how has that influenced the way that your peers engage with you? Because I think that one thing that we come back to a lot is, I mean, I'm not a fintech founder. I can't even imagine what it's like to be a founder because it is just a tremendous amount of work, but it's also a tremendous amount of passion that it requires to, actually see your vision accomplished. And so I wonder about the community aspect of it, because there's something that can be, I mean, Roshan, you alluded to this, but there's something that can be really lonely about taking on something that is so monumental in your life. And, sometimes people can't really relate to what it means for your day-to-day or just like your obligations on a weekly or like yearly basis. And so have you been able to form connections even outside of like the Finrise cohort with people reaching out, leaning on you? Like how would you kind of, I don't know, how has that experience been in terms of just like the community and interacting with other fintech founders or just founders in general and building that community?
I can go first. So especially within Finrise, but in tech and startups as a whole, there's this like attitude of paying it forward and like giving without expecting anything in return. So especially in Finrise, but also because we have the support of Plaid, we get like investors reaching out, people wanting to work for our company, or people wanting to partner with our company, or people wanting to become customers of Walnut, all because they found out about us through Plaid. So that's been really cool. And like you're saying, like it's very hard to differentiate like your identity from the success of your company because they're so closely intertwined. So just having like 4 other like companies that also experience that has just been like really good to have. So can't say enough good things about the community.
One thing that blows me away about fintech is it's arguably such a competitive space because like so many folks are doing versions and variations of similar things, but with different markets or different segments. And what blows me away about it constantly is how open and helpful people are. They're just like incredibly collaborative. People are super open about some of the challenges they're dealing with and how to help you through those challenges. And I think being a part of the Plaid Finrise program has only deepened that sort of connection to the broader community. So, you know, very tangibly and tactically, we got a very strong investor out of the Plaid Finrise program because they heard about us. They aren't even affiliated with the Plaid Finrise program, but they heard about it because of the announcement. We've had folks reach out to us for partnerships. We've had folks reach out to us for talent. So it's been very, very tangibly impactful for us.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. And I think that there's one element, which is like the connections that help you further your businesses. And then so much of the joy, at least for me, in seeing the way that our monthly meetings or any kind of meeting that we have goes is just the way that everybody's able to lean on each other emotionally too. And I think that, like, I don't know if you're a founder at any stage, but also a founder in fintech, being a founder of color in fintech, also having so many of our day-to-day interactions now online. I just feel like having that sense of community and kind of solidarity is really important. It has been for me just in being part of the program, again, not even as a founder. So it's good to hear that that's something that you've gotten from the experience. And I know that Charlene is actually attending right now, so I don't know how to bring Charlene on stage, so to speak, but wanted to give a shout out and say hi, Charlene Federico, who's the founder of Guidify and one of the other companies in our inaugural cohort. But that's just really good to hear. And I know that one thing that we want to do with even more of a focus next year is just this focus on community and also giving the space for Finrise founders, past and present, to interact with each other and pay it forward, as you said. So, you know, expanding that Slack group, maybe trying to boost that engagement so it's not just me commenting all the time. I'm joking. But just, you know, it's a lovely thing to just see this strong community forming. Do you have any advice, I suppose, to other founders that are in similar stages as you were last year and what they should look towards, you know, Finrise or not? Like, what have been the most important things for you on your journey?
Yeah, for me, it's just to always ask for help and, like, honestly, just shoot your shot. Like, it can be really easy to try and tackle problems yourself and feel like you're alone as you're the founder of a company and trying to tackle it, but you never like will know unless you ask. So like applying to Finrise was just one of 1,000 things that I asked for, and you don't get a lot of them, but you never know until you try. So that would be my advice.
My favorite piece of advice is always just don't give up. Fintech is complicated, it's competitive, there's a lot going on, but the market is also so huge and there's so many underserved segments that I think it's just a matter of not giving up. The second thing I'll also say is that, you know, I think having one of the challenges about fintech, Roshan talked about this earlier, is it's pretty complicated and the complexity is pretty deep in each segment. And so one of the things that we've really been able to do is every time we need to go into a space that's complicated, let's say we're talking about compliance or fraud or payments, we have to actually assemble a group of experts around us to get us smart about that topic super fast. So, you know, we talked to 5 experts in fraud to say, like, okay, what does version 1 of our fraud program need to look like? What does 2 and 3 potentially look like? Who are the players we should talk to? And, you know, what are the systems we should have in place on day 1? And that was just like the ability to assemble that board of directors in some ways around you on those topics through Plaid's network and Plaid's help has been big for us.
That totally makes sense. And it's such a smart strategy to just start building out that network of people that, you know, you have that strong relationship with that can also give you guidance on these sectors, because building a financial institution is no easy task. I mean, there's so much that's involved, especially when you're trying to transform it and really offer something new. And it's the same thing with fixing healthcare. I mean, if it was easy, anyone would have done it. But just the fact that you have the ability to really pull in people who have that deep experience and help you in the early stages is so important. So I know that we're kind of coming up at 5 o'clock, and I want to make time for a Q&A. But one thing that I wanted to touch on is some of the changes that we will be making to the program next year. And we're really excited about them. All of these developments were really done with the guidance and the feedback of all of the founders in the inaugural cohort. So Aditi and Roshan, thank you so much for speaking candidly about what was positive about the experience, what we could do to make it more impactful. Next year, we're really excited to offer 2 cohorts. So we'll be condensing the program timeframe a bit from 9 months to 5 months, but we'll be hosting 2 different cohorts, one kicking off in February and running through June, and the second kicking off in July and running through the end of December. And our goal here is also to provide, first of all, the same kind of like core elements of the program. So really leaning into that emphasis on access to a capital and network service or service network. So when I say that, I mean we have a really intentionally built network of VCs that have offered super candid advice on fundraising and identifying early milestones. We also have a network of service providers that we trust, we've vetted, so that if you're looking for a compliance vendor, for example, we have a few that we could introduce you to. And then the second piece is just really providing resources to accelerate your growth. So we have, the opening boot camp, but we also have a really comprehensive curriculum led by Plaid experts when relevant, or we'll pull in an external expert if that makes more sense. And then on the ongoing support side, we have a huge focus on mentorship, so pairing you with an executive mentor at Plaid, legal support, regulatory support. And then if you want to build on our products, account management and product support. So the same core focuses of the program will remain, but we are condensing it. And then based on the feedback from founders like Aditi and Roshan, we're also going to be focusing a little bit more on company stage. So our first cohort will be really geared towards earlier stage founders and earlier stage companies. So if you have a product that's not yet available to the general public, maybe it's in beta, maybe you've been doing some significant user testing and market research, but you need some guidance on getting it over the hump and releasing it in GA. Maybe you've raised a seed round, or maybe that's something you're preparing for. We want to focus on really early stage startups for our first cohort. And then for our second cohort, we're looking a little bit more at companies that have a few products in beta and GA, but still want some work, accelerating their growth, or some support. And then we're also looking from like a funding stage perspective at companies that are potentially preparing to raise a Series A or Series B. Again, these things are not like actual criteria, hard criteria. We just want to provide kind of a profile of company that we think we could best support in these 2 different cohorts. And as always, we'll be looking to support companies that are founded by Black, Indigenous, or founders of color. And we're looking for companies that are founded in the US for now, but we will hopefully expand our ability to support in the future. So really excited about these changes. We think that it'll help us really expand our impact, but still maintain a lot of the really focused, tailored programming that we offer today. And if you are interested in applying, we have a registration available on the Finrise landing page, plaid.com/Finrise. Applications will open for our first cohort on December 1st. But if you register, we will send you an email alert when the application goes live. And if you have any questions whatsoever, first of all, I'll hope to address them right now in the Q&A, but also go ahead and send me an email, finrise@plaid.com, and we'll get back to you. So with that said, I will be happy to start addressing questions in the Q&A. I see that we do actually have one posted now. So the question is from an anonymous attendee. What stage of companies do you accept into your program? Pre-revenue, revenue, pre-seed, post-seed, what stage? Yeah, so hopefully that helped clarify. There's a lot more information on the Plaid Finrise page, but we want to be able to still focus on supporting early stage companies, but we realize that there can be, you know, pretty significant differences if you're very, very early stage versus if you already have a few products that are released in GA, and you have, you know, if you have revenue generated and funding. So we have all of the different kind of like criteria for each cohort or guidance for each cohort listed on Plaid Finrise, plaid.com/Finrise. But go ahead and ask me any questions at finrise@plaid.com if that, you know, requires further clarification. And then we have another question. Aditi and Roshan, what's a solution that you want Plaid to build? That's a great question.
Two. I'm going to cheat and ask for two. So certainly any time of real-time payments or real-time ACH and settlement would be huge for us, because that causes us a lot of grief. And the second is some sort of identity verification, to taking off to the next level and starting to do more verification around people who say they are the people they say they are, and not somebody pretending to be who they say they are.
I would say payroll is an interesting one. So for our use case, we're thinking about giving patients the ability to link their payroll provider and have payments deducted automatically from their payroll. And if they do so, they can receive a financial incentive. So that helps us greatly reduce default rates. Also helps with fraud and verifying employment. But that would be an interesting use case.
Interesting. Thinking through that now. We have another question to both of you. What are some of the most interesting things that you've learned on your journey so far?
So much.
Big question.
So much. You know, I think entrepreneurship really tests you. And you think you're this person. You're like, I got grit, I got perseverance. What are you talking about? I'm the most determined human I know. And then entrepreneurship comes along and whacks you in the face, left, right, and center. And so I think that's been like it's been a very deep self journey as well, to realize, like, what am I capable of? What am I willing to put up with? How hard am I willing to work? What does grit really mean? And to Roshan's point earlier, it is actually way more lonely than you realize. I don't think I think I heard founders talk about that, but you didn't really quite understand why they thought it was lonely. And you're in it and you're suddenly like, gosh, the buck just stops with me. If there's a problem, I have to solve it. And it's never ending, you know? And so I think those, just on a personal note, have been incredibly tricky to navigate. And this is arguably TMI, but my dad passed away a few months ago while I was in the middle of a fundraise. And I can't tell you, like, it completely shook me on a personal note, but having to hold the company up, finish the fundraise, get through all the things that we were trying to do at the same time, just really helped me realize what I was where my priorities were.
Absolutely. And just to like touch on that, like, however hard starting a startup was, it turns out it was like 1,000x harder, especially in fintech, because unlike, you know, SaaS or e-commerce, like, you don't just launch a product. Like, we need a debt facility to do lending. We need compliance to like be able to even be like legally able to offer our product. We need underwriting, which is like a machine learning problem to determine who to offer our product to. So like fintech is extremely hard, but even other aspects like hiring, for example, like I thought, oh, we could just hire an engineer, but how do you find people and how do you convince them to quit their job and work for you? It's way harder than I thought. So everything is just extremely difficult, but a lot of fun.
Who do you turn to in those moments?
So founders who have significant others have an unfair advantage. So my partner in crime has certainly bared a brunt of a lot of that. And just frankly, just having a network of advisors and folks you can lean on, other founders, are incredible. They deeply understand where you're coming from. Having investors who have been founders as well is deeply helpful, because they like, I've seen it all. Come on, let's go. So that personally has worked really well for me.
Yeah, and it's just everyone. So like friends, family, your co-founders, your investors, other people that you know that are in the startup community. So like Finrise is a great example. So it's just really anyone you can find.
Yeah, that makes sense. But definitely like a whole other experience being the person that has to carry the entire company on your back, and you can't just press pause. So really, increases the importance of having that strong network to turn to. So that's definitely makes sense. Good to hear, though. And I guess another question that some of the viewers asked is how your companies utilize Plaid today, what products you use, and how much realistically did you save with the discounts? But we can start with the first part.
I'm happy to do this because we were built on Plaid. As I mentioned, we've been built on for several years because of the PFM. So I think we use like 5 or 6 Plaid products at this point: auth, balances, identity. I'm missing a few. Plaid Exchange, so forth. So we've got quite a few sort of various Plaid things that we're already ingrained in. And then frankly, one of the other cool things about being in Finrise is we also get access to the beta programs. So I get to tell Nell, here are the things that we're trying to solve for. And she's really good about telling me like, hey, we're thinking about this, or we're working on this. Do you want to talk to the PM who's working on this, or be a part of that beta? So that's been huge for us. In terms of actual numbers, I won't give you line by line numbers, but I will tell you that it represents for us tangibly over the next 3 years over $250,000 of equity-free money for us. Probably more.
And we use Plaid assets. So for our underwriting models, we were using credit bureau data, and so credit score can be a very finicky and outdated metric. So being able to use Plaid to see people's income, spending, and savings on a daily basis, it's much more predictive of loan repayments than a credit score. So in terms of savings, like beyond just however much it costs to use Plaid, the improvement in our default rates is going to be 100x whatever we would have saved because we got free Plaid. So no other accelerator or product has had that kind of tangible business impact for us. And over the next 3 years, it might be tens of millions of dollars in unavoided or avoided defaults potentially.
Question, just to touch on the way that you're using Plaid in particular. I know that one thing that's so tricky about credit scores is, credit and who has access to credit is there's some pretty stark differences. And so people who don't have, solid credit histories are often not offered loans or have to turn to things like payday loans or short-term small dollar loans that can be really costly over time. So I thought it was really cool the way that Walnut is using cash flow underwriting to make it so that people who don't have high credit scores or credit scores at all can still access loans and repayment plans for their medical bills, because, it would be horrible and just like an awful outcome if just because you don't have credit, you are also saddled with the entirety of your medical debt that you have to repay all at once, or the alternative being, a super high interest loan. So I was very inspired by the way that you're using Plaid in that way, just because it's so important from like a consumer access perspective.
It's our mission to expand financial access to healthcare. So, hundreds of thousands of people experience medical bills and do not have credit scores, and so just have zero options on how to pay that bill. So that's the problem we're trying to solve.
And to give you a similar treatment, obviously, I think that one of the really cool things about Zeta is the way that you are using increased transparency into how everybody works with their money to make it so that people have a really clear picture of not only how they use money, but how their partner is using their money, and how you can make better choices with that in mind. And it's something that I'm increasingly thinking about, like as I'm in a relationship where we have very different incomes, where we have different relationships to money. And so I think that we can get really excited about what fintech means, and we can like restate like our missions and the idea of what it means to change financial services. But then you look at like actual tangible things that people are doing, and that makes me even more excited, because it's like I can see the way that people are changing financial services, and the way that both of you are, you know, touching financial services, healthcare, like those are tangible changes. So that's just what gets me excited.
And I wanted to address one other question that came through in terms of what stage of companies. The one piece of advice I would give you is, irrespective of what the criteria says, apply. To Roshan's point earlier, you just got to ask the universe for things. And one thing that my team always teases me about is they're like, Aditi, you have no problem asking. And it's true. I will ask away, because that is a skill that you have to develop as a founder. So apply. I think I looked at the Plaid Exchange or the Plaid Finrise criteria, and I was like, I don't know if we fit, but we're going to do it anyway.
And I'm so glad you did. And I really do want to make that point clear. Like the criteria that we're outlining, it's meant to be a guideline, because we want to give folks a sense of whether or not the program would be valuable to you. And I say this all the time, but there's not a single thing that we include in the program, with the exception of the bootcamp week, where we want people to attend because we want, you know, people to start forming relationships in the cohort. But other than that, like all of the programming that we put on, I only want you to attend if you feel like it's actually valuable to you. And it's the same with applying. And I'm sorry, there's like a lot of sound outside of my apartment right now. But like apply if you feel like the program is right for you. And in your application, if we can sense that and there's a few things in our ideal profile that don't match up, what's much more important is the application and the fact that you feel like you would benefit from it. So please do. And also please keep asking, because Aditi, every time you Slack me and you ask me for something, it's something that I would not have necessarily thought to ask for you. And I love bothering people, and I love trying to see what I can get for you. So yes, please ask me, send me emails if you have questions about applying. But I completely agree with everything you said. Any other questions from the group? I think that we've gone through all of the Q&A so far, but okay. It looks like there's one other question about stage. The original requirement felt it was for post-seed. The application was also very thin. So how do you guys determine who makes the cut? That's a great question. So post-seed, the intent behind that was that we wanted to make sure that people had enough capital to work on and operate their businesses full time, because participation in the program and being able to derive a lot of benefit from the program is really contingent on whether or not this is something that you're, you know, extremely focused on. And especially since we have a small cohort, that was just one of the things that we really needed to focus on as baseline criteria. But a seed stage is not necessarily indicative of that. So we want to be careful about using funding as a proxy for stage. It's just one of the many things that we're trying to use as indicators of whether or not you'd be a good fit. And then in terms of determining who makes the cut, I think that the questions that we asked, we wanted to toe the line between requiring people to write, you know, to fill out really extensive applications, which is just so draining, especially if you're applying to many programs, but also to give applicants a chance to really explain to us like what you need, what you expect from the program, like what you're looking for, and then we can determine whether or not we are equipped to give that to you. And the actual application review process is twofold. So the core Finrise team reviews all applications very thoroughly. And then we pass off a short list to our internal advisory board. And our internal advisory board is made up of volunteers from one of our Plaid community groups. And it's the Plaids of Color community group. And so we have 6 advisors on the internal advisory board, and they receive updates on a quarterly basis and also biweekly emails. And so they're extremely informed as to how the program is developing. They give input on it, and also help with the selection of the cohort. And so between, you know, the core team and the advisory board, we have a lot of eyes on the applications, and we're really just trying to assess for, you know, whether or not Plaid can really add a lot of value, if our Finrise partners can, if it's the right stage, and then moving forward there. One thing I will say, though, is we also want to make sure that if you're applying to the program and taking the time out, that we still provide something of benefit. So we've negotiated discounted services with our network service partners, and we have special deals that we can offer to applicants, not just those who are, participating as cohort members. And then also, if you consent, we can share your application details with some of our VC partners, so that if they feel like, oh, wow, this is an incredibly interesting company, like we want to learn more, they can reach out to you and we can put you in touch directly, so you don't have to go through the process of like pitching them to. So we're hoping that there's still value in applying and that you get a lot, because we know that it also requires that you give a lot by actually filling out the application. And if you have any more questions, I'm more than happy to chat. So hopefully that was satisfactory, but let me know if there's anything else that could require clarification. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, we're actually remarkably like right at time. So I just want to thank all of you for attending, especially Aditi and Roshan. Thank you so much for sharing about your experience. And Charlene, who I know attended. It's been just my joy and honor to work with you over the past couple of months. And I'm so beyond excited to expand to even more founders next year. Thank you all for attending Plaid Forum. Please don't be shy. If you have any questions, finrise@plaid.com. I'll address anything. And then register for an email alert for when the application goes live on December 1st. There's also more information on that website with more information about the program. So thank you so much, and hope you have a great rest of your evening or afternoon based on where you are. All right. Bye. Thank you.